The client was very specific on his wants and needs.
Just because we don't pull the permits doesn't mean we can't point you in the right direction.
And so, but doing something like this is kind of like the standard of building for us. It's just common.
Honestly, these are
hard to make a mistake.
So that's one of the things, like whenever you have engineering involved, engineers don't like you changing things after the fact.
Obviously, everything looks really, really good. I think it passes 90%.
If the city shows up for an inspection and that door that was supposed to be over there is now over there, man, that's a bad day.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It was probably the biggest slab I've done with a soil injection.
Welcome back, Pack. This is Adbil and David.
Sir.
From the what?
Dream Team.
Dream Team. We're out here in Corsicana, Texas, and we got a commercial metal building in the back that we are going to give a beautiful tour to learn about a commercial space and what you can do with it and
the process, what it takes, just everything from start to finish.
Start to finish. So we're out here not only to definitely, showcase the building because we want to take advantage. We're out here. Let's do some marketing.
Yes, sir.
But at the same time, we also already inspected. We've been out here for about an hour and a half, walking around, doing the inspection. And there's a lot of pros, but there are some cons.
That's the reason why we do these inspections. We want to make sure it's done, like I just said, we want to make sure it's done right.
That's what we're going to talk about because we're going to be very transparent.
Let's go.
All right, man. Aside from that, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do we have a giveaway?
Yes, sir, we do. So we're feeling jolly. I forgot my Santa hat, but trust me, there's a gift coming.
All right, so this building was sold by Argenis, and we want to give him a shout out. And if you know the name of his team,
sales team,
leave it in the comments, and you will get a hat and a flag that we're gonna ship out to you anywhere in the U.S. Again, we only service the state of Texas, and it's only parts of Texas. For what reason? Let me challenge David. Why do we only service a certain part of Texas?
That's an easy one. We want to have control of the outcome. If you take up too much space, you can't have full control. And we want to have control to be able to give you guys a great outcome, a great product.
That's why we're here.
Yep.
If we were out in, I don't know, Louisiana,
El Paso,
Mexico, we would love to go to Colorado, but
I don't know, it's too cold out there.
To get out there and inspect, make sure the job is done right like it is here, that's really tough. Again, leave it in the comments. First one, you win that prize. Let's get this one going.
Texas, we're giving away a 30 by 40 metal building completely for free. If you ever dream of your own shop, garage, workshop, man cave, you name it, this is your chance. We are launching our biggest giveaway ever. For details on how to enter the giveaway, head over to our WolfSteel Buildings Facebook page.
Alrighty, David, before we get into the tour, let's talk about what we're seeing here. So we're definitely in a commercial property.
Yep. Kind of rural.
Let's talk about the process first. Like if someone's gonna get like a commercial building, what do you recommend, especially when you get that call and it's a business owner and says, hey, I'm looking for a metal building?
Yeah, of course.
Which we do get a lot of those.
We get a lot of those at least 2, maybe 3 times a week. Me personally, at least. We have a big sales team, and I'm sure everybody gets them. But the first things first, I want to know if you have the land.
Yeah.
If you have the land already purchased, I'm going to ask you for the address, and the first thing I'm going to do is ask my permitting team. We have a permitting team dedicated to figuring out what the requirements are. If the requirements are simple, like in this scenario, we can take care of it. We will help with the whole process. We'll give you the information needed, and then we'll get it going for you guys.
Yeah.
Now, if the project is a little bit more complicated, say for example, maybe across the highway, there's a Whataburger, there's an Applebee's, there's a Lowe's, there's a Home Depot. That area might be a little bit more complicated. You might need a full set of civil plans. More restrictions, more complications, but that doesn't mean we can't help. Just because we don't pull the permits doesn't mean we can't point you in the right direction. We'll get you in contact with somebody that can help with the whole process.
That makes sense.
But we're not gonna get into that because that can be very complicated.
Yeah,
today we're gonna talk about something more simple.
So your address determining the requirements.
Yeah.
Something outside, it could still be commercial, but it's outside in the middle of nowhere. Hey, no problem. Let's get this going.
Let's get it going.
But if it's like in the city, you're like, say, in Dallas or Fort Worth or Austin, definitely going to be a lot more requirements, more restrictions, more work that needs to be done. So really keep that in mind if you're investing in a property. The requirements to build get extensive from landscaping requirements, certain types of utility connections that have to be done. I know we've gone through all that.
We did a church in Houston recently. That one was a whole nightmare on its own, but it's just complicated.
Yeah, but we have the connections.
Yeah,
We have
it's
the
not
connections.
impossible.
It's not impossible.
All right, Argenis. First off, thank you for coming on to the interview, my brother. First question, brother. How did this project first come across your desk, and what was the client's main goal with this building?
First and foremost, thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure. But so the project came to my attention as a submission via email.
Yeah.
The client submitted a request and requested for a commercial project, commercial warehouse. And then from there, we got in contact and we went over details, and I was able to provide him a quote for what he was looking for. And yeah, honestly, here at WolfSteel Buildings, we really aim to make the process as simple as possible for really every type of construction that can be commercial, residential, utility. Just to clarify, for commercial projects, we do only provide the foundation and metal. We do not do any permits for commercial projects. But his case was very, very specific. His permits were actually very technical. He didn't need any EMPs, which are electrical, plumbing, or civil plans. He only needed utility permits for the foundation and the building, which we could provide. So this is why we were able to help him out with this project.
And then you mentioned commercial, right? What made this red iron engineer bolt up the right call for what the client needed?
Great question. So the client was very specific on his wants and needs. It's a warehouse use for for what he's really using it for. It's really a commercial project. He's gonna have a lot of forklifts.
I see.
A lot of heavy material going in and going out.
Gotcha.
So he really wanted to be as strong as possible.
Yeah.
Which really the best option in that case is doing a commercial red iron bolt-up engineered structure.
When you're working on commercial jobs like this, what's the biggest difference in how you plan compared to a standard residential build?
Great question. The biggest difference really, it's clarifying to the client what we can and cannot do. It really is it's a similar process from the quotation to the site visit to the foundation. We just have to make sure the client's aware of what we can and cannot do for commercial projects. Just because like with the commercial project, it really all depends on your requirements and what your permits are. Because if you don't need, like I mentioned, if you don't need any EMPs, which are electrical, plumbing, it's an easier process and we're able to help you from start to finish.
And then one question I didn't have on here that I should have probably wrote. What was the biggest thing that the client was keeping them up at night? Like, because it's a big investment, right? It's a big purchase. So what was that thing when they would come and talk to you, be like, hey, this is my concern. What was that?
I feel like the biggest surprise I would say on this project, which we hate surprises from start to finish, we aim to be as transparent as possible.
Yeah.
The last thing we want to ever do, it's ever give any surprise to any client, such as a cost or a delay or anything like that. For this specific client, the biggest thing was the concrete. He needed a soil injection on his foundation, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And that was very costly. Thankfully, here at WolfSteel Buildings, we were able to help him a lot with that.
Really?
And the reason why he needed that is because his engineer foundation requested that.
What kind of coordination did this project need between sales, engineering, and permitting before, again, we ever broke ground?
Great question. This project was actually sold, and I will never forget. This project was sold in 2024 Thanksgiving. The day of Thanksgiving is when this project was sold and finalized by the client. From there to now, I believe we just finished the building. So it was a very extensive process from the permitting to obtain the engineering plans to not only obtain the plans, now you have to make sure that it passes inspection. So whenever we dig the footings and start doing the site prep, before we pour concrete, engineer has to go there and verify everything to make sure it passes inspection.
I see.
And that's why we require the soil injection. That's why it was a lot of back and forth, it's with commercial projects, the client has to understand that it's not a quick process. It takes time. But it also gives you the peace of mind of knowing that that project is going to be done right. The foundation is going to be done right. The building is going to be done right. We don't cut corners.
Yeah, what a great way to put it right there. Looking back at the finished building after all the setbacks, right? What was it like for you to see that project be complete or almost complete? Well, basically be complete. Because, I mean, you started with him, you mentioned in November 2024. I mean, we're a whole year now. So what was it like?
It was awesome seeing his building put up and seeing the process whenever they were installing the sheet panels, which are extremely tall and heavy. Seeing that, which I think you went to go record.
Yeah.
Man, it was such a beautiful process. I love to be able to see a building from literally the moment it was submitted to being in the property, after permits are approved, after we did the whole process. It is very rewarding. Having our client satisfied with the product, it's priceless, really.
David, let's talk about what we're seeing here. So over there, I see some pallets, some trash. I'm not even sure if those are ours, but I do see a lot of trash on this side. Yeah. And then I see a porta potty. What happens? Who really takes care of that?
So that's actually a line item in your quote. You're always going to see it. You're going to see a porta potty and disposal fee. What that means is that obviously this job takes about a week to 2 weeks, depending on the complications. It could be longer. That's why we need the porta potty. For the building, yeah. That's why we need the porta potty. You don't want to have a shitty situation on site. You want to make sure that your guys are taken care of and they have somewhere to go comfortably. Disposal fee, obviously you see the trash. We want to make sure that we come back, pick it up, and haul it off. Some people like to, keep it just in case they want extra scrap metal. But in this scenario, I'm pretty sure he doesn't.
That's a great question. We have had clients say, hey, leave the purlins or leave, they're gonna use it. I wanna be very clear that we haul off everything. Yeah. Everything gets hauled off. It's the client's responsibility to let us know, okay? It's not the opposite. Sometimes clients, I've had this scenario where clients like, hey, well, that was part of my building. You should have left it. It belongs to me. Yeah. I understand, and that makes sense. However, our policy is we haul off everything because not everyone also wants to keep that trash. Like here, I don't see how the client would want this.
Now, talk to me about the site. I wasn't here during this process, but you guys have more experience. What happened here on the site? Why does all these ruts and stuff like that? Talk to me about that.
Here's where we're going back and forth, right? Because what we do need to build this building is we need equipment. And I know, Ed, you were out here. Again, this video, we're going to do a little bit more of a tour of the building itself. Yeah. But I know before, right now, you watch the story behind it, everything that took here, and we definitely needed equipment to raise these massive trusses. And so in order to do that, I mean, we just got to use equipment. Yep. And the dirt's got muddy and rain throughout the whole scenario, and we leave a lot of ruts. Yeah. And so right here, is this how we leave it to the client? Or what happens here? Like, do we just say, hey,
that's also going to be,
here's your keys?
No. And just walk over these? No, that's another line item that we'll always offer to every single project that has equipment in it, and we're going to make sure that, it's a line item called the regrading fee. What the regrading fee is that if you don't, like for example, in this scenario, there's no equipment here. So we'll probably end up needing to come back, regrade this whole project, the full perimeter, because there's a lot of ruts from all the way over there, all the way over there. You can see where the equipment was running. We'll make sure that we'll take care of all that, and that's part of the regrading fee.
Part of the regrading fee. Now, why would a client maybe consider not to say take off the regrading? Yeah. Why would a client?
That's a good question. So I've been in a couple scenarios where the client actually has either a bobcat or a skid steer, something, and they're going to be doing their own land work after. They're going to bring in some saw. They're going to bring in some base. Whatever the case may be. Yeah. So we don't have to do it at that point. We can definitely leave it off. That's why it's always going to be an option, not actually part of the quote. Yeah. Another scenario, maybe they're going to bring in some extra base, and so they really don't need the regrading fee because they're going to bring in their own equipment, their own material. It's a commercial job, so maybe that's what they have in mind.
More site work, more maybe asphalt, pavement, parking lot. There's a lot of reasons, but that is what the regrading fee is. Yes, sir. And usually that's going to be required whenever we have equipment. Yep. Remember, in our tubular builds, which are smaller builds, not all the time we need equipment. But definitely if you're doing a commercial project, they're always going to have equipment needed. These are just very, very large structures.
So James, first off, what was unique about the permitting process for this Corsicana build?
It started off pretty smoothly, as do most of, like, when you request, when the girls, when the permitting girls, they'll ask for, like, what are the requirements and everything. Yeah. They reply back with what the requirements are, what, what inspections are required, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then so you ask some follow-on questions, and it's almost like like dating, you know, they ghost you, and then you're like, was it me? Was it something I said? So communications are oftentimes are rough.
Yeah.
It is a smaller city that's kind of growing, so communication was a little bit tough at first. And then there was one gentleman there that we started working with when we started getting some of the things arranged, and they were very strict on things, very by the book, and it was hard to get answers with. And I'm the type where I want to talk about it and be like, hey, I just want to make sure I'm understanding, what you're getting at. So I had to deliver the documents in hand. They don't take, you can email documents, you can upload them. A lot of places use like My Government Online or whatever, and you can upload it on a portal, but they wanted all plans and all documents, hard copies delivered. Really? It's like an hour and 20 from here, which isn't bad, but if you have to go there frequently to get your questions answered, sometimes that's a lot of windshield time. But so you had to do documents in person. They seem very busy, and I didn't find out until later that like one of the main guys there, he'd been doing it for a long time. He knew everything. Yeah. He had passed away.
Oh, wow.
So everybody else was kind of picking up, and he knew everything. He knew where, you could ask like, hey, are there sewage lines running underneath this? And he knew where it was. Really? So he'd been in the town. I guess he grew up there. He knew everything. And so everyone's kind of picking up as you go. Right. And then you could kind of tell the other inspectors, like the other inspector that I worked with, he was probably friends with them. You could tell that, you had to give him a little bit of grace. Sometimes when you show up and you can't be really super demanding and like, I need my permit. You kind of start understanding what their office is like. And then at the time, since it is a growing city, they have a bunch of fiber optic companies in town.
Yeah. Oh, really?
And so like I'd be on the phone with him. He's like, hey, I got to run. I got whatever. And the fiber optic companies weren't allowed to go on private property. Really? But then all of a sudden they start trenching across somebody's front yard. So the inspectors would have to go there and kind of deal with that. And so they're kind of getting drawn many places. So it was kind of tough in the beginning. We kind of learned about due to the size of the building. Yeah. Anytime I think what is a 60 by 120. Yeah, 60 by 120. So it's like, okay, commercial, and it's not. Yeah. Like, okay, when are you going to do your plumbing? When are you doing your electrical? We're not. He's not doing it. It's a glorified storage shed. That's all it is. And they're like, nah, there's no way. Yeah. And so there was like, every time we'd submit, they're like, hey, where's your electrical? Where's your this? Really? And we're like, we're not doing electrical and plumbing. Yeah. So that was a little bit tough going back and forth on that. And then due to the size of it, some it's due to size, some it's due to the cost of the project. You automatically have to go to TDLR, Texas Department of Licensing and Registration. And so they say, okay, you have to have, it's like being ADA compliant. He's like, okay, well, what if any of their employees have disabilities? Then you have to have this ramp, you have to have this type of door. And I'm like, no, there are no employees. It's like him. It's like his business. Yeah. It was hard to get that across because they thought we weren't being honest about it. Yeah. So in an industrial area, with a bigger building, it's a lot different than building a 20 by 24 in somebody's backyard.
Makes sense.
So there's a lot more stipulations.
Yeah. You obviously mentioned working in the city, right? Industrialized area. What was the biggest thing, again, what they were looking for before giving that green light?
Well, since it is different than that 20 by 24 in somebody's backyard, they're going to want engineered foundation plans. They're going to want soil testing because whenever you put that much weight, that much of a building, that much of a foundation, they want to make sure that, you're not building over clay or too soft to ground or whatever. Makes sense. Engineered building plans. Then they start looking at, okay, the size of the doors, do they need to be wind rated? So it starts opening up a lot of cans of worms for other things because like again, they thought due to the size that you're going to have either everyone from the community in there, shopping or doing something, but it's not a business. It's his personal thing. Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to touch base on is like obviously the communication between engineering and permitting. How was that? Did it help avoid any delays down the line with the whole back and forth?
So that's one of the things, like whenever you have engineering involved, engineers don't like you changing things after the fact, so we try to work with sales, we try to work with permitting and planning to make sure that like the client knows where their windows are, their doors are, their roll-up doors, their overhead doors, they know where everything's going to be. When you start changing things, engineers kind of get in their, in their feelings a little bit, and then the city does too. Yeah, so if you submit for engineering change, a lot of times it's costly. I mean, it may be $500 to $1,000 just to move a door because they have to go through the calculations. They load it back in the software program, and that software will run for like 6 to 10 hours, or it may run overnight because you may change how the building responds to wind loads or to snow loads. Yeah. So guys a lot smarter than me, plug all that information into the software and they run it. So we try to make sure that everything's taken care of in advance, and that engineering's not going to change and the city's not going to change, because if the city shows up for an inspection and that door that was supposed to be over there is now over there, man, that's a bad day. So we try to have everything done in advance, to where those two offices or those two, you know, folks are content and happy, and we're not making changes.
Yeah. What advice would you give, you know, clients or builders going through city permitting like this client did for the first time?
All your ducks in a row. Iron out where you want everything. Try to figure out, like, if you have a survey done or if you have any property documents, figure out if there's any easements, because we've had, you know, you see some where it's like, okay, there's a, like my property, there's an easement. Okay, my fence is 10 foot from the street, but then I have a utility easement 10 foot in from my fence. If I hadn't done the research on it and I put my building up against that, I could have had my building done, and then they're like, nope, pick it up and move it, tear it down, do whatever. So you have to look at your surveys, your documentation, and make sure you can put it in the location you want. And then, you know, sometimes when you're doing the permitting, if it's close to, you know, you have that utility easement or an easement of any sort, then you have setbacks. Some places say, hey, we're just gonna 5 foot from the property line is good, 10 foot, 15 foot. We've seen like 35 foot and 50 foot setbacks. Sometimes what they don't want is you and your neighbor both up against a fence, or man, they have a really nice view out to the forest, and you're gonna block it with your big old building. So they have setbacks, and some of those setbacks they take into account, like the viewing angle. So if you're over 12 foot, then you have to be, say, 10 foot away. If you're 20 foot height, you have to be like 30 foot high. So they want visibility, they want clearance. And then there's also some places where if the building's really close and the building, say it was a stick-built wood, and it catches fire, then it could transfer over to the neighbor's property. So then they have setbacks for like fire standards. So you want to make sure all your like property and layout is good. You know, I've seen some where like, hey, I'm gonna put my building right over there, and you walk over there and you see their their septic lids and their septic systems right over there, and then their laterals are right there, and I'm like, you can't build over that. And honestly, a lot of times, like, we'll tell clients, I've heard the sales guys tell the clients, like, hey, it may behoove you to go and run your own permits, because for some reason, if me as your designated representative, if I go in there and I'm like, hey, we're trying to get a permit for this client at this location, man, it's like they don't want to talk to you sometimes. Some offices are great, some are amazing, super nice. Some of them, it's like, I don't really want to do that. But if the client goes in there and it's like, hey, my property at such and such address, and it seems like they're a lot more helpful because they're neighbors or they live in the same area, or it's, you know, it's just, it's a different feeling, a different vibe sometimes. So sometimes we tell the clients like, hey man, you might want to do it, because we've been fighting with cities before. Lack of communications. They're like, yeah, we'll call you back and when we get that information. Nothing. And the client is on that email thread like, hey, you know, we're not just, you know, ignoring you. We're working this diligently. I mean, the permitting girls, they're like one step away from being in the county office, managers at night over their bed, like, hey, we need that permit. Are you going to get our permit? So the girls, like, they're on them. But sometimes they just don't respond to us. And then that client will go into the office and they walk out with their permit. And I'm like, oh, why didn't we do this, you know, 2 months ago? So it's kind of weird. So, and some offices are great. I've sent emails at like 5:30 at night, or called and left a voicemail, or was expecting to leave a voicemail, and they answer, or they respond right away, and they're like, yeah, I'll get it to you tomorrow. Okay, here, send $25 to this. Oh, shoot, okay. I'll send more than 25. You know, you answer that quick. And we literally will call them and be like, hey, thank you so much. That was so painless. You guys have been great to work with. I hope more of our clients in your area buy, because this was easy. Some cities aren't.
You mentioned easement and then the setbacks. Talk to us about that story of you going out there and in the setback that you also went through.
Are we talking about out in Corsicana? Man, okay, so that one was rough. So we're getting ready, we set forms, you know, they scuffed up the dirt and everything. They're finishing the form so that they can pour soon. And they're like, hey, we were looking over some old plans and it looks like there's a sewage line that runs underneath that. And I'm like, okay, that's an all stop for us. And they're like, well, no, it should be okay because it's an old set of plans. And I'm talking to Willie, our concrete manager, like, no, could you imagine if we drilled down, because we had to do piers. So 6, 8 foot deep, 10 foot deep, whatever piers. Imagine hitting a big sewage line. I'm like, nah, we don't want this being all over the news. You know, so it's like, no, we'll do our due diligence. We're going to pause. We're going to stop. We sent the guy home, our concrete guy, and said, hey, pause for a minute. Let's verify this. But again, that went back to the older gentleman that had been there forever. All it would take was a call to him and he would know. but they had to go through and like, okay, that's a 2006 or like a 1996 drawing. This is a different drawing, but we want to do our due diligence and make sure we're not creating damages or issues or anything like that. So I went out there and walked the property and then walked behind, and there is like a manhole cover that didn't have a cover over the top of it at the time. So I kind of dangled down in there, dang near upside down, to see if it was connected. And you could see there was like some big PVC that was busted up down there. So it looked like it was an older one that was no longer in use. And you could kind of see like the angles. Okay, that doesn't go to our building. That doesn't even go to the neighbor's building. So we were good on that. But, they were like, hey, you could just be careful, but there's not really be careful when you're drilling for piers. So it's whatever you hit, you're drilling through. So we just had to kind of do our due diligence on that and kind of walk it out. And that was when the inspector and I both got stung. I told you. He's like, yeah, you told me. So
that's crazy. Going into the building side, James, again, you were able to see it from both sides. The permitting into the red iron side and the building. You mentioned once that slab passed the inspection and you got the go ahead, where did the team start on this 60 by 120 build? I mean, obviously it's a pretty big size.
Right.
How was that first process? I'm like, wow, we got this part done. Not onto this.
So one of my things I want to do that I always try to do is either myself or Jared or one of the guys that are on the road or Willie is even after the concrete's done and curing or whatever, we still want to go check plates, because when we set the embed plates, sometimes they don't really shift, but sometimes if somebody comes out, say we set everything, we'll set you have like your framing around where the plates are going to be, and if it's a bolt up, then the bolts have their 3.5 inches stick out or whatever. They're kind of pre-staged and just ready for concrete pour. Well, we had another project where the plumber came in because he needed to do his rough ends, and the plumber's like, oh, that plate is right where I was going to put my plumbing. So he turned our plate 90 degrees, and we're talking like a big old plate for a 12 inch wide by 6 inch wide form or column. And he turned our plate 90 degrees, and I'm like, I can't move my columns and change them 90 degrees. Yeah, we ignored it. We just said, screw it, whatever. But the plumber comes in there, somebody moves something, and it gets shifted, and so we always go out and measure, center to center. Then this one center to center, make sure the door plates, because you'll have the bigger plates for the columns, then you have like a 6x6 plate for your 4x4s for the door framing or whatever, depending on the engineering part of it. So we always try to go out and verify plate placement and spacing. And then once we're like, okay, we're good, we have our kickoff date, we have our material delivered on a certain date. I try to be out there if possible, or have the crew out there, because things happen. They're running the Moffett to unload it, which is kind of like a forklift, and sometimes a couple purlins will get bent. But we want to know like the day it happens, the day of delivery. We don't want to wait until we're like getting ready to install it, and then you have work stoppages or delays. So accept the material, count the material on some of them. We just had 3 tractor trailers worth of material that we had to inventory and category, make sure the material's good, and then the crew, when on kickoff day, the crew will show up and they start moving and placing and set the columns and kind of rock on from there.
Obviously, you're in the red iron bolt up. This one was the red iron engineer bolt up, right?
Right.
What's the biggest difference that you notice when erecting a red iron bolt up compared to a weld up on site?
Well, I mean, as soon as you walk in and you see just the slab, you're gonna be able to tell automatically what's what, because on a bolt up, you're gonna have the bolts sticking up, that you'll set the columns down, you start bolting everything, and literally for a bolt up, there should be no welding. It is just all engineer bolt up. It's a kit. It'll have like on the end of the column, it'll have like RF1 or rafter number 1 or
Lego
whatever,
set,
and it's got full instructions, just like doing a model car, a plastic model car. It's just a very big model that you're putting together, but everything is labeled, everything is kind of figured out, and they bolt everything together. They tell you how everything goes, and then weld up is raw material. So if the building has a 16-foot leg height, those may be 18 or 20 foot rafters that show up, or columns that show up. So you have to cut the angles for your 512 pitch or your 312 pitch or your 612 pitch. All that you cut on site. They design on site. So it gives them a chance to make sure the fit up's perfect and everything like that. There's a little bit more flexibility in a weld up. I had this conversation with a client last week. He's like, well, what if I want to move my doors or my windows? And I'm like, honestly, you're a weld up. We could adjust on the fly on site. As long as it doesn't mess with panels or anything like that, we can make adjustments. Whereas a bolt up, the engineer, you know, designed it. They know where everything's at, and it's much more difficult to do field modifications on a bolt up. So you want to make sure everything's squared away and taken care of there.
I was able to go out with you on site when it was very windy, muddy. Were there any surprises during that framing or material installation or building installation that that the team had to adapt to as well?
Not during framing per se. We started getting a lot of rains out there during sheeting. Whenever we started putting the walls and the roof panels up, we started doing the walls first, and it had rained, and so they're basically walking in the mud. They had some of the dunnage, some of the 2x4s, and some of the wood planks that they're kind of walking on to you know, try to be able to do those panels.
I see.
And then whenever I was out there, that was a very tall building, so you're gonna have like 22-foot tall panels. You're gonna have, you know, one guy on the sky track kind of lifting it, or depends on, you know, the length of the panels. You'll have a couple guys pushing it up. You have one guy up top on a scissor lift that accepts it, and what they do is they'll slide it down. They'll hold it high, and then slide it down really slow to where it's perfectly level with all the others, and it's not hitting the base trim and scratching up the base trim.
Makes sense.
So when they were doing that, we started getting some pretty high winds. I think you were out there. You know, we got like 30 mile an hour winds, you know, gusts, and I'm like, call it, you know. Can't have that panel taking flight.
Last question here, James. Obviously, you saw the building, how it turned out. Looking back at it now, what are you most proud about this Corsicana build and how the team handled everything?
Working through like the, not really diversity, but kind of working through diversity with Corsicana, with grace, you know, not being demanding, and, you know, they were nice to work with once we kind of got a rhythm going. We worked well together. We got the site prep done. Everything was ready. You know, once we started getting everything installed, there was weather, there was winds. You know, so we kind of had to work through all those things. But I would say working with the city and getting everything done and working with the crews.
Awesome.
And I would say just getting through the process, because it was kind of a learning lesson on some of the things because of the scope of the project, the size of the project, doing the whole TDLR thing, the multiple inspections, the multiple agencies you have to work with, and then, you know, the couple hiccups of we don't know if there's sewage line running underneath, things like that. But it was a positive outcome of just working through all the working through the permitting and the communication, you know, little speed bumps we had with them, working with the weather. You know, rain and mud and high winds and stuff like that, and the work stoppages because of just unsafe environment. And then, you know, I knew seeing it on paper, the blue and the white was going to look really good. And then once you see it, you're like, oh dang. And there were some, you know, like your desktop, your Windows, when it has the screensavers, you know, of the different countries or different cities and stuff. That's what that building looks like, the way that it pops against the blue skylight. And it's cool because the road behind it, you know, it's half a mile away. You can see it. You're going down the 45. You can see the building. Awesome. It looks really sharp. It looks really good. It stands out.
Awesome.
So definitely we have a 60 by 120, and this is about 6,000 square feet of a commercial space.
Yes, sir.
David, what is our client using it for, or what could someone use this building for, especially in a commercial setting?
Yeah, another great question. So this particular project is going to be just dry storage. That's all it is. It's for his business, dry storage. There's no insulation, there's no AC. I don't even think there's electrical. He might run it later, I'm not 100% sure, but it's just dry storage right now. As for what you can do with it, right now when you walk in, you're gonna see how massive of a space it is. And you'll be able to see, what's very popular right now is actually flex spaces. You'll see something like this with maybe 3 bay doors or 4 bay doors. But in this scenario, you can divide it by 2, and now you have a 60 by 60, 2 60 by 60 shops, rent them out to
3,600 square feet.
Yeah, but you cut it in half, now you have 2 spaces, you can rent them out. It's really endless, you know, whatever you can do inside these buildings.
And especially the way he has it, because he's got a door here, which is a 12 by 14 commercial flush panel door, and then a service door, and then another one the same way over there. So it's easily, this could be divided in half and then rented out for like flex space for a small business setting. Now, before, David, we go in the inside and definitely talk about the door, the size, and if this is a good size and all that, I want to ask you, because are all our buildings required engineering, or how does that work for, well, more specifically for a commercial job? Engineering required?
Yes, if it's a commercial building or in some scenarios a residential building, we're always gonna have to have the foundation engineered and the building engineered. If you're gonna get a loan for your project, or if you're gonna get insurance on your building, they're always gonna ask you, what are we giving you the money for? What are we insuring? If you have a set of plans backing what you're investing your money in, they're gonna take care of you. If you don't have it, sometimes they won't lend you the money, and sometimes they won't even insure your building.
Yes.
So it's
which makes sense, because like if I'm a bank,
it's a really
I would
important
want to
note.
make sure that I'm giving a loan for something that's gonna last a 30-year mortgage
Yeah.
loan. Whoa.
It's a little
hey.
windy. The good thing is that it's engineered.
Yeah, good thing it's engineered, so
Yeah,
don't
it's
worry
not gonna
with
go
all this
anywhere,
wind.
yeah. You might not be engineered, Ed, but the building is.
And then insurance, for real, check with your insurance.
100%.
We've had scenarios where we've heard, hey, if your building is not engineered, we won't insure the building.
So, Adbil, real quick, why would a mortgage company or a lender want the engineering plans for your building, or why would an insurance company require engineered plans for the building?
So we don't know the full answer. Like it's mostly a strong opinion. Again, I think from the ecosystem of how the whole construction works. Here in Texas, there's not like a license specifically to build a metal building or to build a foundation. There's not a license requirement like in other states.
Yeah.
So I used to build in a different state that required every single project to go through a permit and inspections,
Okay.
and then every single project to have a licensed builder that took a test in order to even build. Does that make sense? So like here, like anybody can just pick up a shovel and say, hey, I can build foundations. You know what I mean? Without any real understanding of the engineering behind what you do, and also the
labor.
the labor side of it.
Okay.
So I think knowing both sides is really, really important. Not just that you know how to do it, but also what everything you do, how does that impact the overall outcome of the result that you want out of a building, right? So in this case, we don't want it to fly away, right?
Yeah.
So everything, for example, when we inspected those items of like the bolts, the making sure that they're all bolted, everything's plumb and
level.
yeah,
and stuff
exactly.
Like that, yeah.
But going back to the answer is, because there is those type of builders out there, then I would assume that the loans companies and insurance want to make sure that there's someone in the middle.
Yeah, that's backing their money.
That's backing
They're
their
protecting
money.
their money. They don't care about you or anything like that. They're protecting their money.
Their money. So the person in the middle is the engineer. That engineer is the one that actually, says, hey, this is how I want you to build it. And as a contractor, our job is to build it according to the plans. If there's no engineer, then it's only client to builder. And as a client to builder, you're trusting me that I know what I'm building, and that it also will withstand certain loads, whether that's collateral loads, whether that's wind loads, snow loads. Not here, right? But you get the point there, right? So at that point, there's no one in between saying that, and there is a lot of buildings being built out there that have no engineering there.
I've seen buildings that there's no engineering involved. Oh no, I got it for super cheap. Check it out. I don't think I want to step inside that building, my friend. Just be fully honest.
But that's just what it is in Texas.
Yeah.
Which in a way is also good, because it minimizes costs involved.
Yeah.
Because having engineering involved in every single project, sometimes even in like a small shed, it's like, come on, like, you know what I mean? It's just a shed. It's not as risky. That's why for commercial and residential, we require it. Like, it's just requiring because we want to protect your money and protect your investment and protect everyone involved in the project. And we're all doing something that is good for a long term.
We've said it since the beginning, and we'll keep on saying it. Nothing beats a set of plans. Planning is everything, and that's what we abide by.
We build on paper, and we just come and construct.
Execute on site.
Execute on site.
That's right.
Overall, the building, what we found, everything is really good. From the screw lines are all good.
Yep.
All the screws are good. Really, really good quality. Very minor scratches. So one thing to keep in mind with metal buildings is like, it's metal, so like it's easy to scratch. But there's also touch-up paints that can be from like a spray can to a brush.
Do we provide
the
that?
Small little ones. And what's up?
Do we provide that?
Yeah, we can provide. We actually do provide them.
Perfect.
But we provide them to our team.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So here, there's still some that needs to be touched up. So that's something that we did notice.
Okay.
Also, as far as like the building and the lining of it, plumbing level is really good.
Yeah.
Only thing is like some of the gutter still needs a little bit of straightening up. So we're gonna have our team come back and make sure that it's nice and straight.
Okay.
Aside from that, we did notice a couple of like screws on the ground, right?
Yes, sir.
What do you think? Is that normal, David, or what do you think from your opinion? Because I know you're in the sales game.
Yeah, no. If I was, I'm gonna put myself in a client's perspective. If I saw screws on my property, I wouldn't like that. Imagine I have my kids or somebody just running up and stepping on it. That could be a problem.
That's correct.
That could be a problem. Yeah. Or driving around, you got a screw in your tire. If I see a blue screw on my tire, I know exactly who to go to. So yeah, I wouldn't like that.
But it's true. So in a metal building that has an exposed fastener system, which is basically all the screws are exposed and they're screwed onto it. In this building, we did over 1,000 screws on this whole, probably even into the 3,000, 4,000 screws.
Oh wow!
But as you're putting them, definitely screws are falling as you're going.
So it's inevitable.
It's inevitable. So our job is to make sure that we pick them all up, because if you're driving here, those screws will definitely give you a flat tire.
Yeah.
So that is something that definitely should be demanded from your metal builder, to make sure it's nice and cleaned up afterwards.
Yes, sir.
David, this is a 12 by 14.
12 by 14 door can fit honestly, any 18-wheeler can fit through here, as long as it doesn't have very high stacks. Other than that, great door for commercial use, in and out comfortably, forklifts, sky lifts.
And it's insulated.
It's insulated, yes, sir. These are the flush panel insulated R10, I believe, with the steel backing.
With the steel backing. And definitely, it's also because there's still a lot of gap at the top.
Yep.
There's definitely a high track here
so
on,
we have the high
both
track
of them.
and the follow the roof line, right?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah, like combined going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so follow the roof line.
Yeah, so any doors that we put on the side, we're always gonna recommend high track / follow the roof line. That way you don't lose any clearance. A lot of people like to have roll up doors for that same reason, because you don't lose any headspace. We'll offer you that solution when you want automatic overhead doors.
Perfect. And so this one, 18-wheeler forklifts, is a lot of
me. I can fit in here comfortably.
And again, this is definitely a big commercial. You ready?
Let's go. Let's check it out.
We get it. Starting a new metal building project can feel overwhelming with concrete here, installation there, permits somewhere else. At WolfSteel, we can take that headache away. From site prep to the last screw, we bring every service under one roof here in Texas for Texans, so you can have your metal building without the stress. We handle tubular buildings, red iron weld up and bolt up buildings, permitting assistance, full concrete slabs with site prep, plus any demolition if needed. Concrete coating options, various insulation options, a gutter system for your building, custom doors, windows, and even cedar accents if you want a more rustic look. You need more, like mezzanines, balconies, or masonry, we got that too. We do not service outside of our service area, nor provide material or kits only, and our services do not stand alone. We focus on full turnkey Texas metal building projects. WolfSteel is the easy choice. Texans, we've got you covered. If you fall within the service area, contact us today. If not, I hope our channel is helpful for your metal building project.
All right, Willie. First question, brother. So when you first saw the plans for this project, right? You're the concrete manager, right? It's very important to have that concrete right on point.
Right.
When you first saw the plans of this job, it's a 60 by 20. What went through your mind when it came for this job, like a commercial build?
The first thing I noticed is how reinforced it was. Just the fact that it had 63 piers and the amount of rebar, the footers, everything. It made me feel comfortable and confident doing this slab because of how reinforced it was.
Gotcha. And then talking about reinforcement, walk us through that whole process of getting this foundation ready for inspection. We're located in the city of Corsicana. So what was that like when it came to getting the slab,
It was a little bit challenging at the beginning, just because we thought we were, just gonna go out there and do some dirt work and get our slab ready.
Yeah.
But, it turned out that we needed a soil test. Well, we get soil tests regularly, but this one specifically, the outcome of the soil test was needing a soil injection. And that was a little bit, it caused us to push on the brakes a little bit hard, so we kind of came to a hold on that. And just because there were so many small steps to take to get that soil injection done.
Talking about soil injection, I was with you when we went through the whole process, right? Certain requirements that it needed for that soil injection process. I think this was one of the first times that we've done a full soil injection for a slab this big.
Right.
Talk to us. How difficult was that to manage all that together for just the soil injection part?
I'm gonna be honest with you. It was probably the biggest slab I've done with a soil injection.
Really?
One of the biggest challenges that could have taken a left turn was the access to water for the soil injection. You know, you get three options. Either you're by a lake, you get a bunch of huge water tankers out there, or you're lucky enough to have a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet of the project where the slab's gonna be. But so we were out there, we were looking for that
For the
the fire hydrant, and luckily we found one, thinking that it wasn't gonna reach because it looked pretty far.
Yeah, it looked very
we're out there, you know, this looks way more than 1,000 feet away. But when we got to measuring it, you know, we double checked it. We measured it with an actual tape measure, and then we actually did with a drone.
With the drone, yes.
With the drone, we actually measured
double checked it.
Yeah, double checked it, and it was between 300 and 400 feet. So we had a whole 600 feet of slack still. So it worked out perfectly fine, because I think that's the most cost-efficient way of doing that soil injection is by having a fire hydrant, because, you know, obviously water tankers are super expensive, and then obviously not everybody has a lake nearby. Another challenge, even though it was the most economic friendly option, was to get access to the fire hydrant. You know, you had to
contact the city.
You had to contact the city, leave a down payment. They give you, I guess, like a lock. They go and put out a lock out there. Then you contact the people that do the soil injection. They gotta go out there and do their stuff. Then you gotta call the city again, tell them to pick it up. You know, you got to keep up with this, because, you know, people can go out there and use the fire hydrant any moment whenever the city puts that a water meter on it. And that means it's open. So imagine there's a couple tankers roll by and fill up with water, you know, that's on you.
And then obviously talking about, you mentioned the concrete piers as well. For folks that might not realize it, what was the purpose of having that many piers in such deep footings as well for a slab like this size?
Well, it was not only for the size, but because of the coming back to the whole why it needed soil injection.
Yeah.
Same reason why it needed those piers is because the type of soil that was there was really bad clay. On the top layer, when we were out there, it seemed pretty rocky.
Yeah.
But, you know, within a foot in there, it was just nasty clay. Because of soil conditions, we decided to go with the piers, you know, to help it.
Another challenge was, you know, soil conditions, like you mentioned, but demolition before y'all started, you know, actually the site prep and stuff, because y'all had to demolish some of the driveway, or there was like a driveway there, or like a concrete pad at the beginning, right?
It was a sidewalk the size of the same length as the building, so 120 right in the middle of it. We had to go and demo that before we did anything.
I see.
Because, you know, whenever they go out there do their injection, we can't have anything blocking. So we had to go do that. Wow. We just pushed it to the side just to keep it moving. Anything we do is to, you know, it's the right thing to do, but it's also we watch for to be on a timely manner for the schedule to keep it rolling.
I see. To keep the project rolling.
Yeah.
I see. Another thing, you know, this is a commercial slab, and so how do you make sure that the commercial slab like this meets engineering specs without slowing down that schedule, like you mentioned, in a timely manner?
I mean, there's all types of things that can keep you from going with your schedule.
I see.
So it's a little hard to. Every project has its own timeline.
Yeah.
Even if you can have like 10 projects lined up for a week, but some of them are going to have more detailed inspections. Some of them are going to need obviously soil tests, soil injections. There's just so many types of so many factors that go into play. They'll prevent you from reaching your schedule, but in order for us to keep moving, like, you know, a good example was that demo. We didn't have anything to haul off during that time because our haul off crew had their trucks in the shop. So there was plenty of room there, so all you got to do is push it to the side where it's not going to be in the way of our build. And, you know, that's a perfect example of something we do to not slow down. Another thing is the piers. You can drill the holes and cover them, you know, make sure there's no critters or anything that falls in there, or cave-ins. You can cover them, and then you can pour, because usually you want to pour them the same day. But ours, we had some rain in the forecast, and it rained on us, so we actually had to pump each one of the holes and inspect it to make sure there was no cave-ins and there was no water in there.
Big process, very long process of it.
Very long process.
Another thing was the concrete pour as well, Willie. I went with you when we went to the concrete pour. You know, talk to us about that. It's a huge slab, huge size. Why was it at night? Why did you push that for a night pour?
It was towards the end of the hot season, I guess. Just for it being that big of a pour, it was also our foreman's, one of our foreman's biggest pours.
Yeah.
So we all decided to do it at that time to give us the advantage of the coolness of the weather during the nighttime.
Yeah.
We poured at 12 o'clock at night in the AM or whatever you want to call it. And it took us all the way to maybe
like what, 6, 7 a.m.?
7 to 8 a.m., somewhere around there. You know, but it's a smoother process. You know, you don't have sun hitting it full blast.
Yeah.
You know, any adjustments that need to be made can be made because the concrete is curing slower or is drying slower. You get better service since a lot of people don't pour at that time.
I see.
I think the only big issue you can run into pouring at nighttime can be if you don't plan ahead on lighting.
Yeah, because from the drone shots, I mean, you can see there's just so many trucks everywhere. There's so many lights. There's workers here, this and that. So I guess the lighting would be a big issue. You're right.
So another thing I forgot to mention, we also, pouring at that time also benefits you so much in the fact that there's no traffic, so you get all your concrete trucks just flowing. They just flow, you know, they're not taking forever because they get stuck in traffic jams or something like that. But
I get it. And then lastly, one of the last questions as well, out of all the, you know, commercial pours you've been able to manage, what makes this Corsicana project stand out for you?
The soil injection.
Really?
Yeah, the soil injection does. Like I said, this was my first big soil injection like that. I've done some that were small, you know, but I wasn't ever there. Or didn't have to really mess with it too much, I did with this one. And be more involved in it. So it kind of I learned a lot from this project.
Yeah.
You know, because of what it took to, you know, get to that pour.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm not sure if you've seen the photos from of the building itself. What makes you the most satisfied, the most happy about seeing a fully completed build like this? What sitting on a slab like this?
Just that I was a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I was a part of it, and it makes me proud. It makes me feel proud that you're part of something like that. You know, I know a lot of people know, and whenever you're with your wife or your mom, or your kids or something. And you're in construction, you're always like, hey, look, I built that over there, or I helped build that, or I was part of this.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel proud, you know, showing it off or whatever, driving by places like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, being a part of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Willie. Man.
Definitely 6,000 square feet.
Massive.
Well, more like 7,200 square feet. Wow. So this is a pre-engineered metal building. So what this means is that the frames, everything was already fabricated in a controlled environment.
Yep.
What are some of the advantages that you know about a bolt-up pre-engineered metal building like this? Showcasing.
Key factors that I always talk about is going to be minimizing the potential room for human error whenever it comes to construction. Bolt-ups are exactly what it sounds like. The material arrives and we bolt it together. Bolt-ups and runtime time for construction is fast. I believe this one took about a week and a half?
A week and a half.
That's tubular timeline.
Yep.
You know, the good thing is the building is a basic box. There's no insulation, there's no complexity to it, so that's why the timeline was a lot faster. But that's the benefit of a bolt-up.
So whenever you're bidding for a bolt-up builder or for a bolt-up project compared to a weld-up, they would be at different levels, right? Would you say?
Oh, 100%. If it's an engineered weld-up, the vetting for the installer and the hand that's welding is top tier.
Because it's fabricated on site. Everything's being fabricated on site.
Cut and welded on site.
The main person should be very well versed on fabricating, welding, and also the craftsmanship of trim, of sheet paneling, and all that. For a bolt-up, there's no welding required. It's really just putting together a kit. So what that requires is just someone with really good experience on leveling, plumbing, squaring, and definitely, you know, installing and doing the sheet metal. So just a little bit less of a skill requirement.
Yes.
Bolt-up, which is very common in commercial settings, the biggest thing is also safety. Because like putting up a building like this, you know, it just requires good protocols and safety, and definitely a builder that's insured.
You have to know how to read a set of plans.
What's up?
You have to know how to read a set of plans. That's really the most important part.
Most important thing too.
Because we're making it seem like anybody can come up and put a bolt up. You have to be able to read a set of plans.
That is
if
true.
not, you can have a problem.
So overall, that's what I love about pre-engineered metal buildings. All the purlins already have the holes where, you know, it just tells you, hey, that's where bolts are needed.
Yeah.
We actually embedded the anchor bolts on the ground, and so we just set them up when we set up the foundation. Cables for wind pressure.
If you notice, we have the wind cables all the way up on the roof. But we don't have them on that wall.
Because
But
there's a walk-in door.
There's a wall because there's a walk-in door. So whenever there's a walk-in door where the cable bracing lands, the engineers will actually add a wind column, which is a beam that's attached to the beam.
Again, for lateral support for wind.
Yes.
So a couple things that we noticed here, obviously everything looks really, really good. I think it passes 90%. The little things I would just say is we need to definitely pressure wash here. There is a lot of dirt from working around here, and there was a lot of mud. So definitely do a little pressure wash, clean it out. Some nuts need tightening up, and some bolts need some tightening up. One of the things I do love about, like, we could call it a box, is that from our experience, from just doing it often, it's really hard for us to make a mistake on something like this compared to like when you got valleys and you got all that.
Windows and this and lean-tos and this and that.
And connections. Connections with like lean-tos, wainscoting, that requires a lot of extra work, a lot of extra detail. And so, but doing something like this, it's kind of like the standard of building for us. It's just common.
Honestly, these are
hard to make a mistake.
These are usually my favorite buildings to sell, just because, I mean, we have this one, we have the one in Burleson, Corsicana, I think San Antonio. We have several of these buildings. They're just basic boxes. A few windows here and there, but again, going back to the simplicity of using an engineered bolt up, everything is done in the facility. There's minimal room for error on site. That's the reason why I love these large bolt-up commercial projects that we do.
One of the things I love about pre-engineered metal buildings is definitely, obviously there's an engineer involved in the process, which makes the waiting for the kit to be specifically made for you. This is specifically engineered for you. It's one of the beauties of a red iron bolt-up is that it's specifically made for you. For example, because you have the door, now we do a wind column to, you know, move things around. It's all based because the client wanted the door there. And because of that, also, all the frames are painted. They're painted on the site. All the welds are in controlled environments, even like robotic welds.
Because there is welds on these buildings, but they're done inside the facility. Now, I do want to touch on something that you mentioned, because we're always talking about the building. The building is made for you.
When you're doing a commercial project, it's really important to know what you're going to do or what you could potentially do. Because when the engineering comes, there's one that we call a load, and that's the collateral load, which is what you're going to be hanging off of it. Sometimes you run like a crane through the top. Now that requires different types of loads or a specific point load to sustain certain things. I know one of the pre-engineered building that we did for a church, there was a section that they were going to hang
speakers, I believe it was.
Heavy speakers. And so that needed a specific point load, specifically reinforcing that specific rafter and columns to support that.
That way you don't have collateral loads throughout the entire building. It's just one specific section.
Save some money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money, yeah, that is true.
I just want to give a quick shout out to Argenis that sold this project. He did a great job, helped out the client, gave him exactly what he wanted, explained the entire process. At the end of the day, we're here to help out our clients. Our team is very, well knowledgeable, and some people can take on certain projects. Me and Argenis are actually very well-rounded on the commercial space. So if you guys need any commercial projects, have any questions on the commercial space, please reach out to me, David, or him, Argenis. We actually started the exact same day. Fun fact for all of our viewers, we started the same day. His extension is 011 minus 010. So
nice.
Just a little insight there. But we're always here to help out.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And definitely our YouTube channel is also here to help you out. So watch more to learn more. I know a lot of our clients lately have been saying, man, like the YouTube has really, and again, we focus more on like teaching and educating to help you make
the right decision,
a good decision when it comes down to going through a metal building experience, if that's the choice that you want to make. So aside from there,
don't forget to like,
share and subscribe. And we'll
subscribe
see you
to
guys.
all of our channels too.
The what?
Subscribe to all of our social medias too.
TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah.
The giveaway. Don't forget the giveaway. Make sure you comment Argenis' sales team.
Sales team. Yes. Aside from that, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Let's go.
What's up, Pack? Remember to stay up to date with everything that we're up to by checking out our social media. You can find us at WolfSteel Buildings for behind the scenes action. We share our latest projects, update on what the team is working on, and all the exciting progress happening in real time. Don't miss out on the action, and remember to give us a follow.